Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. Room tone. Hey y'all, it is Brooke with the Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast, and today the episode is called Knight in Shining Sequins, and of course that is a knight with a K-N-I-G-H-T, because that was the mascot of my middle and high school Episcopal Knights. So in 8th grade, I was in the pep squad, and one of the cheers we would do was hot boudin, cold couscous, come on Knights, let's push, push, push. And it always got, I guess it was the rider in me, ooh, how pretentious, that would always think, well, couscous and push, like that's really stretching it. Like couscous, no, push, push, push. Like, no, it just didn't work, but it was a cute cheer. I had a lot of fun doing pep squad, but to analyze that cheer even more. So if y'all don't know what boudin is, if you're not from Louisiana, if you've had your head under a rock, no, I'm kidding, I don't think a lot of people know what boudin is. So almost every single person I know back home loves it. I cannot stand it, because in French, boudin means blood sausage. And basically what boudin is, it's in a casing. I don't like anything in a casing, but boudin is in a casing. Oh, I do like an andouille sausage, but I'm getting a little sidetracked. So boudin is in a casing, right? And it's basically meat and rice, like the sausage, all shoved back up in there. And I think it can be fried. I'm not 100% sure. Again, I'm not a boudin expert, but I do know that one of the best places to get boudin is at a roadside gas station on the way to Lafayette from Baton Rouge, because we would always have to stop there every single time for my mom and my dad to get some boudin. Ooh. And actually, I had never had couscous in Louisiana until I actually went to France, to the south of France, to Avignon, and we had it like every night, and I loved it. And then when I came back home, I would make it for mama. It was like just like a nice salad with a lot of lemon and stuff. I mean, couscous is nothing but a grain, nothing but a wheat. I know there's a lot of talk. I've even had a lot of talk about wheat and grain and all that stuff. Going against the grain, going insane. I just had a Rent moment. I am going a little insane. But couscous, I feel like it's something that's kind of not necessarily comfort food for me, but it is heartwarming because it always makes me think of France. But anyways, that cheer, I just totally analyzed and went ADD about a cheer from Pep Squad. We're not talking about food today, though. We are talking about one of my passions, costumes. So Pep Squad costume, everybody was allowed to join. There were no tryouts. So I was, middle school is right when I started getting extra juicy, as my friend Natasha and I like to say, but I was getting heavier, and I had a uniform. I mean, we all had uniforms, but I remember, I think Varsity was the manufacturer. I remember one of the Pep Squad leaders or teachers or, those people, the adults basically who do Pep Squad, told my mom, privately and on the side, here's like the extra magazine because Brooke's going to have to get it from the adult part of the calendar. It's like, give me a break. What's the big deal, because back in the day, plus size didn't really exist, and it really didn't exist for 13, 14-year-olds. If you're a 13 or 14-year-old, you're not plus size. You're just fat, and not fat with a PH. But at least I was able to get a nice costume, if you will. I felt very important. I was very happy about Pep Squad because it put all kind of like my dance moves to the test. Even though you don't really dance a lot in Pep Squad, you are, moving and grooving and pushing that hot couscous, or you're pushing the hot couscous. You're nuts. You're pushing the cold couscous and the hot boudin. So then high school happened. Pep Squad, middle school, 8th grade. It was hunky-dory. I never say hunky-dory. Like last episode, I said golly or gee whiz. Geez Louise, I don't really say that stuff. But it was hunky-dory. It was almost idyllic in a way. And then we hit high school. And I had seen way too many John Hughes movies that I thought, I put myself into this box where I said, I must be in a club. I must fit in somehow. I must, have a group, have a clique, if you will. And I did theater, but I never really quite fit into the theater department because I wasn't the best singer. I wasn't really cutesy. I was almost kind of a little too out of sorts to 110% fit into the theater department. And I wasn't quite badass enough to fit into the cool kids group, but I was too badass to like do choir. And again, remember, I was not a singer back then. And I was not athletic enough for any intramural sports, but that did not stop me from trying to fit in. So one of the first things I did to try to fit into a group, some sort of after school activity that would define myself, that would define me for the rest of my life, that would at least maybe get me a college scholarship of some sorts, that would make me interesting, that would make me fit in, that would make me have instant friends. Yes, because it works like cake mix. High school's just like cake mix. No. I really said, let me go with my dance background, all 10 years of it, from being a little kid. And I'm going to audition for the High Steppers. So my best friend, Nikki, and I, we worked our booties off. The High Steppers are like cheerleaders, except they just dance. They just dance, if you will. They sometimes have pom-poms, but not always, and their pom-poms are sparkly. So that is kind of the difference. And they had all these really cutesy, like kind of shiny uniforms. I say cutesy now, and in hindsight, they were probably just really, really like expensive, tacky stuff. So Nikki and I were just really trying hard. We would practice, little dance routines, things like that. We would stretch. I would really try to get those splits in. And then one day, this girl, her name was Amy, she lived in my neighborhood, White Oak Landing. Hey. And she came up to my mom and I at our house. Maybe she was stalking me. I don't know. But she was a senior. I was like, this is so cool. A senior stalking me. So she comes up and she's like, hey, I saw that you are fixing to audition. Oh God, I just said fixin'. Well, we know where I'm from, y'all. So, hey, I just saw you're fixing to audition for the High Steppers in a couple of weeks. And I thought maybe I could give you some pointers because I'm a high stepper. And I was like, this is wonderful. And Mama was like, girl, are you sure you have time for us, for little old us? And Amy was like, yeah, I'm a senior. So, I'm fixing to graduate. So I have nothing but time. So, cue the 80s movie montage of me and Amy, or Amy and I, of Amy and me, of us girls practicing, stretching, trying our hearts out to really get me into shape for High Steppers. Oh, notice that little pause there, because I think also I was trying to get myself into shape cardiovascularly too. So the day of High Stepper tryouts, Amy comes over and she is driving me there, and I give her this, she liked that kind of vintage Winnie the Pooh, not the cartoony Winnie the Pooh, but the more vintagey thing that was really like resurfaced popularity in the late 90s. I got her all this cutesy Winnie the Pooh stuff from Disney Store and Barnes & Noble, I believe. And, we hugged and yay, Brooke, let's do one little more workout. Let's stretch. Let's dance a little bit. And so Mama comes in and she's watching me do my high kicks. And the kicks are not quite high enough. And Mama's like, Brooke, you don't need to do a high kick like that. Do it like that. And Mama up and ripped her like pants, and I think she pulled something in her back. It was a lot funnier to see than it is for me to describe right now. But so there was that. So then Amy drives us to the Amy drives me to the high stepper auditions, and like for once Mama wasn't there with me. It's part of me growing up, part of me getting older, because I'm hanging out with a cool senior who likes vintage Winnie the Pooh stuff. So get there, best friend Nikki's there, and we are ready because we want to be part of this group that's like cheerleaders, but on steroids. But they're not really on steroids because they're good gills and they don't do those kind of, what's the word that you use for steroids or things that athletes are not supposed to take when you are in school. Anyways, so Nikki and I, we start auditioning. We have to learn a dance combo right then and there. So Melanie teaches us, sorry microphone, I hit the pop filter. So Melanie teaches us the dance, and it's to whip it, like not whip it good, but we both are here to add the touch, so let it whip. So it's actually wasn't whip it, it's let it whip. So get that straight, y'all. Not DeVoe, whip it, but let it whip. So I remember only part of the dance at the end, and I also was wearing a Guys and Dolls t-shirt because I had just seen the Broadway show that summer. So I felt very self-important, working my butt off doing this dance, go into audition and see all the dancers do the dance. And you're in those standard, lines, right? And there's this girl, and her name is Courtney, and she is like dancing like a beast. She is high kicking enough to impress Mama, okay? And she has a leg brace. And then I go in and I do a so-so job. But I felt really good about it. And I had worked hard, like good things should come to those who work hard. And Nikki did a great job. She had worked hard too. She actually, she had more of a dancer's body and kind of that look that they were going after. So on Monday we go and we look at the list and we see, looking for our names. Of course, Courtney got it because that girl is crazy. And then we look some more and Nikki's name's not on there. What? Nikki. And then, surprise, surprise, my name's not on there either. So I thought, high school is ruined for me because I can't be a part of the high steppers. But I only had a low for a second because I said, you know what? I'm going to audition for cross country. And I kept saying audition. You don't really audition for anything. And I said, the cross country people seem pretty cool. You just run long distances. Cool. And sometimes you can kind of like jog a little bit, maybe. That's what I thought. So that summer between middle school and high school, I started just walking 5 miles a day in the mountains of North Carolina, where we would go every summer. And two of my best friends, Arlie and Cora, and some of their dogs, like Sissy the Beagle, they would join me. I remember Cora and Arlie were walking barefoot. So those mountain girls, they are tough. But it was fun. But I said, it's just like not fun enough for me, because walking in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina with no heat and humidity is a lot different than jogging, running in the heat and humidity of South Louisiana. So no, thank you. Then I thought, as soon as I started high school, freshman year, it was kind of like tryout week. And I said, wait, one thing I didn't think about was swim team. I really think I would do great because I swim like a fish. Yeah, right. I had never swam in my life to stay straight in a lane. So I was never a big like swim with a swim cap, swim with goggles. So my first time to ever put on a swim cap was at the tryouts when I was 14 years old. And Mr. Z and Mr. Z, so they were brothers, Mr. Zielinski and Mr. Zielinski. I remember them just looking at me while I was swimming, and they were just like shaking their heads like, girl, no, get out of this pool. And that made me a little sad because I really wanted to be part of swim team. But nowadays, at least I have taught myself how to swim in a lane. Still haven't taught myself how to high kick well enough, though, to impress mama. So you might think, hey, Brooke, you were in Pep Squad. Why didn't you just do cheerleading? Yeah, well, good luck me trying to do a herky. You had to be able to do a herky and all these other sorts of things. And I couldn't even jump a hurdle for that physical fitness challenge you have to do. But in hindsight, that physical fitness challenge you used to have to do, remember that, y'all, back in middle school? That's how they judged how athletic you were, how wonderful or how worthy you were. And if you didn't do well, you felt like crap. At least I did. I couldn't even... I think a herky actually is a little bit, I would say, easier than jumping a hurdle, depending on the size of the hurdle. Now, if the hurdle's the size of a turtle, that's pretty easy. Needless to say, cheerleading was out for me. So again, I was happy to be part of the theater department. I was happy, but it just didn't quite feel like I had found my groove, really. I was also involved in the visual arts, and that was a lot of fun, and that was a great way to get out of the heat and humidity, was to go into Miss Mano's room and do mosaics and do artwork during my free time. But then I got to thinking, it was my, sophomore year. There was a guy, and he looked like the typical, he was Conrad Birdie and Bye Bye Birdie. He looked like the typical guy, like the heartthrob, right? Within an 80s high school movie. I mean, not really my type, but his name was Sam, and, dashing type of guy. He was the knight, as in the mascot, the knight. And he really looked like a knight from back in the 1800s. Like, he was built for it. And I was like, oh, that's fun. Sam's the knight. That looks kind of fun. And then Sam graduates. And the next year happens. It was my junior year. This guy, a senior named Craig, kind of a portly fellow, if you will. And I don't like to say portly fellow, but come on, give me a break. I'm am or was or are or will be. I'm a bigger person too. So give me a break. So anyways, Craig, kind of like a chubby, silly kind of, just a deadpan humor kind of guy. He was the mascot in my junior year, his senior year. And all he had to do to get a zillion applause and a zillion laughs was just run straight across, dash straight across with a sword. And I got to thinking, that looks kind of like fun. So senior year comes around, and I go and talk to a couple of the girls who are in the cheerleading department, and I'm like, girls, I want to be the knight. How do I become the knight? And they're like, oh, Brooke, you'd be perfect for it. All you do is you just have to get a costume, and you just run around at games and get people fired up. And I'm like, do I have to learn any routines? Do I have to audition? Do I have to try out? No, not at all. So Mama made me a costume, and it was basically this shiny kind of lame Liberace looking number with gold sequins, and the middle was kind of that old timey cross and navy blue, because those were our colors. And I just put all my heart, soul, and blood, sweat, and teen spirit into it. I didn't just run like Craig. I didn't rely on my deadpan humor and funniness to get by. Or like Sam, I didn't rely on just my good looks and just wonderfulness. He was a wonderful guy. They both were, I just got into it like a crazy person, doing crazy dancing and cheering, just beasting and getting into it. And my mama actually had a really good idea. My grandpa, Poppy had made a lot of cypress wood things over the years, furniture. He also made cypress wood rocking horses, and they had he would tie the rope hair, and I remember the hair was so soft. So Mama was like, baby, why don't you whip out that rocking horse, just put it in the back of the Jeep, because I had a Jeep back in the day. Why don't you just put it in the back of the Jeep, and you could bring it to all the games and ride on that rocking horse, and that will sure be funny. And boy, it was, because I'll tell you, one time for the homecoming game, I was a little hungover. I mean, I sorry to admit it, but I mean, I guess we start drinking early in Louisiana. So I was a little post turned up, if you will. And I get my like 200 plus pound self and my night outfit on the rocking horse at the field. I'm kind of to the sidelines of the field with the cheerleaders, and I start, lassoing and riding that rocking horse. And all of a sudden, I just kind of like just keel over and fall over. And one of the teachers, oddly enough, my favorite brother, Mr. Z, the blonde-haired Mr. Z, he also taught us political science, and he was the coach of the swim team that I was not accepted into. He looks at me and I look at him, and I could tell that he so badly wanted to laugh at me. But I think he kind of felt bad, like, oh gosh, like the bigger girl just fell off of her rocking horse. But I thought it was so funny because that rocking horse was low to the ground. And I mean, it was funny. And, I was a little hungover, but also still possibly slightly drunk. Who knows? And Mr. Z and I make eyes, and we just start laughing. And I realized I had found my place in high school at that homecoming game. It was just to make people laugh, to make a fool of myself, to ride that rocking horse. And I couldn't always plan when I would fall off of it, but just to do silly things. And it didn't matter what size I was. And for so long, I had told myself, oh, well, I wasn't accepted into high steppers. I actually just realized this while working on this episode, y'all. For nearly almost 25 to 30 years, I told myself I wasn't accepted into high steppers because I was a chubby kid, or I couldn't be, part of the swim team because I was more like a whale, and I couldn't, be part of cross country because I had flat feet and I was overweight. And I had told myself for so long that I didn't get into any of these things because I was overweight, because I didn't fit in. And I realize now I didn't get into any of those things because I wasn't quite good. I just wasn't good at it. I wasn't a good enough dancer. And that's fine. That's what I'm realizing. That is fine. I wasn't a good enough cross-country runner. Got bored. That's fine. I wasn't a good enough swim, stay in your lane person. But I was good enough at making a fool of myself and making people laugh and enlisting mama to make me one kick-ass costume. So that, being able to just go rogue and not join any group in high school, is where I really came into my own. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.